Greetings and welcome to our next chapter. This week we're going to talk about ethics and information technology. Now, the purpose of this chapter is to give you a highlight to the ethical issues that relate to information technology. It should give you a lot of interesting discussion that you can, if you wish, discuss with me, with your other fellow students. Today, a lot of you are more technology savvy than, take for instance, in my day. And we have technology embedded into our everyday life. So, why are information technology ethical issues important to us? Well, there was a survey done by American Management Association and the ePolicy Institute, and the results were quite interesting. 26% of the firms in that survey had to fire an employee due to misusing the internet. You wouldn't believe how many people sit at their desk, they are on Facebook, in a chat, or there have been cases of people viewing pornographic material at work getting caught. So there's a great deal of misuse for the internet. In the work environment, the firm or wherever you work owns the computers and any other devices. Therefore, they have control of what activities are considered acceptable and when the devices are to be used. Those who are given laptops, there's a program that they load on it to make sure that you don't use that laptop for anything but work. Cell phones are monitored. All they have to do is go to the issuing company website, check to see all of your texts, to make sure that they were all business related, all of your calls. You shouldn't be able to get away with anything. They'll catch you. 76% of the firms monitored their employees' activities on the internet to determine which websites were displayed. So you can't just, hide that one and have something work related up and be on Facebook, for instance. You can't do that. 36% of the firms monitored the content, the keystrokes used, and the amount of time spent on the computer. As a result, firms are trying to ensure that that slacker mentality or slacker activities don't occur either on the computer or by not using the computer. So you're in a catch-22. They want you to use the computer for work-related stuff. They don't want you to use it for being online or anything like that for yourself. And yet you can't just not use it because they're counting the keystrokes. They're checking the websites to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. In addition, 50% of the firms reviewed computer files of the employees, and 55% reviewed email messages that were sent and received by the employees. If you're using their computer, it's their email. Now, as a result, not only is every minute monitored, but what's being created electronically on the computer from content perspective is also monitored. That survey itself showed also that 20% of the firms had employee email that was subpoenaed for legal cases, and 13% of the firms had to address workplace lawsuits that were the result of employee email. You kind of getting the picture now of what you can and cannot do, what you should and should not do. You just got to be very careful. You can't send any email outside of what is work related, not on your work email. Now, you can, on your break, use your cell phone to create an email to send on your own email server, but that's it. Now, another fact that might surprise you is that the level of monitoring of the employees' activities by the firms. 51% reported using video monitoring to observe the activities of the employees within the office. So while you're sitting at your desk doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're being video monitored. So that 51% of the firms that were in this survey. Also, 5% of the firms use global positioning systems, or GPS, to track company vehicles and the employees themselves using smart card technology. If it's a company car, it's their car. You can't take it anywhere they don't send you. Cell phones, like I said, if it's your personal cell phone, utilize the heck out of it on breaks and when you're not at work, but not company phones. Now, the net result of this tracking is based on two reasons: legal and performance. The legal reason is that video monitoring and other tracking can be used when employees become involved in illegal activities. The monitoring systems can be presented as proof of the behavior by capturing data that support the claims made by the firm. The second reason is that the firms want employees to be as productive as possible. So these monitoring systems are used to help ensure that the employees are performing their jobs to the best of their ability. Okay, there are 4 schools of ethical thought. And if you look on page 119 at, I think it's figure 7-1, you'll see highlights of the comparison of 4 schools of thought relating to ethical issues and information technology, or IT. So if I use the term IT, you'll realize I'm talking about information technology. Excuse me. Now, I'm going to go over these and think about which one you would follow as it pertains to information technology issues. Okay, we have the collective rule-based ethics. Now, this is a behavior that's guided by rules that have been developed from rational, logical thought. Therefore, illegal downloading of software and music files violated copyright agreements because the action is in violation with the universal rules. Individual rule-based ethics. You have the individuals that knows what is the correct course of action to take. It's from these heuristics or gut feelings that individuals make ethical decisions pertaining to IT. Now, the caveat with this approach is that the individual can convince themselves of their actions, even if the gut feelings would recommend or could recommend another course of action. Therefore, if the individual has convinced themselves that illegal downloading of music files is okay because the files are available and there are thousands of other people that do it, then the action can create legal and ethical problems. We also have the collective consequentialists. This is similar to utilitarianism. Collective consequentialists believe that their decisions should be based on how they impact others. Collective consequentialists would argue that monitoring of employees and would negatively impact the liberty of the greatest number. However, collective consequentialists would also argue that any activity should be considered based on the universal impact. Therefore, it could be argued that if changes in the perceptions of social change, then the trade-off of the safety of monitoring versus the loss of liberty must be examined. Now, you also have individual consequentialists. That's where each individual needs to determine his or her self-interest to help guide ethical behavior. How would you think, and I want you to really think about this, how would you think an individual consequentialist would change their belief based on which side they support in an ethical debate? An example, an individual consequentialist may believe that it's in his or her self-interest to download free software regardless of its origin. Would the individual consequentialist believe the same if it was his or her own work that was being downloaded freely by others without compensation? Downloading of music that is on the web, for one thing, in the case of music, a lot of times the artist will put up free download. They're giving it to you free. Other times you can find all this free music that someone else has uploaded to a website and you download it. That's pirating. So it's theft. How do we, as management or otherwise, look at the issues and policy areas for information technology? Privacy. In other words, how much information should a manager have access to? Should firms try to force employees to stop smoking and join an exercise program, or face having to pay higher insurance premiums? Should the same information be collected pertaining to managers as is collected collected for the subordinates? Should the same information be collected for top-level managers of the firm? Let's look at ownership. Well, first, who's the legal owner of the information? If new inventions are created within the firm's lab, who owns that information? If the answer is the firm, would there be circumstances where the answer would change to the inventor? A lot of times, I'll take academics, since I'm an academician. If I write a paper and it gets published, if I am an employee of a university at the time I write this, that can become property of the university because I wrote it as their employee. Other times you can, say, make a, I don't even want to use the term deal, but that's the only thing that's going to pop into my head right now. That if I do research for the school, the paper that I write will be property of the school. I would be the author, but the paper itself would belong to the school. What about control? Well, control refers not only to controlling the information flow, but also controlling the movements of the employees within a firm or business. When does control stop and privacy rights start? Does the ethical impact of control depend on the specific set of circumstances? Are there areas of control that are always unethical? There's these questions that you can ask yourself. And then there's also accuracy. Well, accuracy let's start by saying it's dangerous to assume that all information collected by a firm is accurate. It's just highly improbable. Since the content of the information can have a direct impact on the evaluation of an individual and or the firm, the firm, must ensure that the information is accurate. There must be safeguards in place to ensure that data is checked for accuracy before it's considered valid. So make sure that any data you produce through a research, whether it be on your own or through your company, is accurate. You check the accuracy of that information before you publish. And then, of course, there's security. Security is probably the #1 challenge for a firm as it relates to data collection. Since data can hold personal and valuable information, individuals outside the organization may attempt to attack the information technology system of the firm to obtain access to the data. Security is big, especially in academics, law, things like that. There's so many cases of people hacking, stealing information, changing information. So we definitely need a lot of security. I hope this has given you a little insight to Chapter 7. And think about the questions that we asked ourselves. Make sure that we understand why we're doing something, and the ethical issues concerning IT. Because IT is a very big, very important part of everybody's daily work. I mean, in school you've got IT. As an instructor, IT is probably one of the ones that's on speed dial in case things go wrong. So think about everything that we've talked about, and have a good week. Get everything done on time, and try to use good time management. In other words, I would get work done before it's due so that you have time to relax. Happy studies. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.